It's exactly 1 year since a peace truce was signed between Kenya and Uganda. The peace pact, dubbed the Mombasa Peace Accord, was meant to bring an end to the border conflict that had threatened to tear apart local communities as the scramble for resources such as pasture and water came to the forefront. On the front row, we wind back the hands of time to assess how the peace accord has transformed the area, what are the unresolved issues, and what this means for national and regional borderline peace programs. I am your host, Abi Agina, and this is the Front Row. To be part of this forum, you can engage with us on our social media platforms at KTN News KE, or you can tweet me at Agina Abi, and our hashtag is Front Row. Before we begin by introducing our distinguished panelists for this discussion, we'd like to bring a very important piece just to set this conversation in motion. As Kenya and Uganda mark 1 year since a peace deal was signed between the Turkana, Pokot and Karamojong communities, it might be time to assess the gains made so far. A number of local and regional leaders who witnessed the signing of the Peace Pact have expressed hope of greater development and peace for the communities occupying northwest Kenya and eastern Uganda. KTN's Mark Namaswa now reports.
On September 12, 2019, Kenyan and Ugandan government officials met in Moroto, Uganda to sign a peace pact. Historical clashes over pasture, water and cattle raids along the common borders had been a persistent headache. Devolution CS Eugene Wamalwa attended.
We started in Marsabit. You do recall the MOU that was signed between Kenya and Ethiopia. This was way back in 2015.
This approach of signing memoranda of understanding was not entirely new, only that this time it was introduced in northwest Kenya and eastern Uganda, where the Pokot, Turkana and Karamojong are neighbors.
The joy it brings to the communities when we put aside cattle rustling, we put aside the issue of infiltration of small arms and conflict, then you find that we are one people.
From around that time on, we are now able to walk the distances without any fear. The communities have settled pretty much. There is hardly any disturbance.
Back in 2019, Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta and his Ugandan counterpart Yoweri Museveni presided over the event.
Program hii tukishirikiana pamoja na Umoja wa Mataifa ni program ambayo itatusaidia sisi wote kuhakikisha ya kwamba tuko na amani.
Wakati mlikubali kurudisha bunduki, watu wamezaa watoto wamekuwa bila kuwa chakula ya risasi.
And now the signatory nations to the Moroto Peace Accord plan to extend the initiative to include South Sudan and Tanzania.
The culture and tourism sector is one area that we also want to strengthen. It's part of what we're looking at as the tool for development of this region.
We have actually supported interventions that have eliminated the illegal flow of small arms and light weapons in the border areas.
Northwestern Kenya and eastern Uganda now hope to shed off their infamous past as insecure zones and make their mark in matters, development and peace. Mark Namaswa, KTN News.
Thank you, Namaswa, for that report. And ladies and gentlemen, allow me now to introduce our distinguished panelists to help us drive this very important discussion. First off, we are honored this evening to have Eugene Wamalwa, the Cabinet Secretary in charge of devolution, and he leads this very important ministry that is he's also in charge of assaults and expansion of the former Ministry of Devolution. He was previously the Cabinet Secretary for Water and Irrigation and also a former Minister for Justice. Well, my next guest we have this evening is Sid Chatterjee from the United Nations. He is the United Nations resident coordinator, and he actually has been working in this field since the 26th of August 2016. He leads the UN country team to deliver on the UN Development Assistance Framework in Kenya. He has spent most of his career in the UN working in fragile states and complex emergencies, serving in various capacities with the UN. He has worked in UNDP, UNFPA, the Red Cross movement, and the UN security. All right, let's get this discussion moving. Well, thank you so much, gentlemen, for making time to be part of this important discussion. And ideally, today symbolizes a very important and momentous day for Kenya and Uganda. Let me begin by opening this forum to allow the CS for devolution, Honorable Eugene Wamalwa. Just walk us through your opening remarks and why this day is important.
Thank you very much, Abby. Indeed, we're very, very pleased to join you this evening with my good friend Sid, who is the UN team leader in Nairobi, Kenya. We have worked together very closely with Sid as a UN country coordinator, being also the co-chair of the United Nations Development Program, the UNDAF, which we co-chair with the CS Yatani of the National Treasury. But in particular, when it comes to cross-border, we worked very closely with the UN family, particularly the UNDP, and we've also worked very closely with the EU in terms of promoting integration of communities living along our borders. We are marking a very important milestone, particularly coming a year after the signing of an MOU in Moroto, Uganda, which I co-signed with my very good friend, the Minister for Karamoja, Engineer John Byabagambi, in the very distinguished presence of both our heads of state, President Uhuru Kenyatta and President Yoweri Museveni. So we are saying after 1 year, we have every reason to celebrate, because after signing that MOU, we have peace dividends coming down to the ground, to very remote areas of our country. And this weekend, we were in West Pokot County as well as Turkana County, right on the border of Kenya and Uganda. Abby, I just got back yesterday, and the joy I saw at Nassau, just a few kilometers from the Ugandan border, as well as Orum, right on the border of Kenya and Uganda in Turkana County, was a very fulfilling experience, that the fruits of the tree of peace that we planted in Moroto last year before our two presidents and before our partners is bearing fruits. And these fruits are coming down to the local communities. The biggest problem facing the communities living along the borders, most of whom are pastoralists, is really water and pasture. And for a pastoralist and his animal, they only know two things: water and pasture. Most of the borders separating these communities, who are very similar in culture, in livelihood, are the artificial borders that were placed before some of us were born by our colonial masters. So we're trying to see how we can remove these artificial borders and turn them from barriers into bridges and interaction points for these communities. So like you said, it is not the first MOU we have signed. We started way back in 2015 when the Ethiopian government with the Kenyan government met in Moyale, when we had our Prime Minister of Ethiopia and our Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta signing the first MOU. So the MOU we are celebrating after a year today is fashioned along the Moyale one, and it's meant to bring peace so that we prevent conflict that is mostly resource-based, and instead of seeing more conflict, cross-border conflict, we want to promote cross-border trade. So I am happy tonight to say that indeed this MOU has borne fruits, and the fruits are going down to our people. Asante sana.
Thank you so much, CS, for those very vibrant opening remarks. Let me bring in Sid, and also just to pick what the CS did touch on, that of course today marks a very big milestone in this journey. Perhaps walk us through, how did we get here?
Thank you, Abe. So let me start with commending the President of Kenya for his vision on this count, because I have been in this journey since 2015 when the MOU with Ethiopia was signed in Moyale, and I was present there to witness it. And just a few years later, we witnessed it in Uganda. When I say I commend President Kenyatta, I say this from a spirit of Pan-Africanism that he represents. The second most important thing about both the MOUs of Ethiopia and Uganda are really a microcosm of Africa's potential to realize the Africa Free Trade Area. You need peaceful borders. You need, as President Kenyatta said at the speech in Moroto, that we need the free movement of goods, services, and people for Africa to thrive, just like the European Union model. So this is representative of what is the potential of Africa, of making the borders havens of peace, stability, of interaction, of allowing Africa in its real sense to thrive. And the third very significant thing is Kenya enters the UN Security Council as of January. A very, very significant milestone for the country. It is coming in there with a new mandate of advancing humanitarian action, advancing peace. It is doing so with real tangible results. So I witnessed the Kenya-Uganda process when I was very lucky and truly privileged to represent the UN. And I joined Cabinet Secretary Eugene Wamalwa for this visit, which was really organized as a discussion called the Global Peace Foundation Forum. And it was hosted by President Museveni of Uganda. What was remarkable was a dialogue actually started between C.S. Wamalwa and John Begabambe, who's the Minister for Karamoja Affairs. And very soon that initial dialogue, where an exploration was also done of the Kenya-Ethiopia model, the teams came together, the UN and the technical teams from both governments. By December, there was a meeting, actually December of 2018, where the UN resident coordinator in Uganda, my sister Rosa Malango, came with the Minister for Karamoja Affairs and a Ugandan delegation. And we spent about 3 days here in Nairobi really distilling what this would mean. What C.S. Wamalwa has been able to deliver normally takes 3 to 4 to 5 years. We managed to do that in a 1-year timeline. This was the winds of change and hope. And you have two spectacular governors in Turkana and West Pokot who've really found ways of bringing their communities together, which have seen traditional belligerence and rivalry and conflict, have turned that into one of collaboration. And what we witnessed in Moroto is really a pickup from there. Today, that peace dividend opens up a new opportunity. Can we convert the Karamoja belt into the food basket for the rest of Africa? My answer to that is an affirmative yes. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Sid, for your opening remarks. And let me take it back to CS Eugene Wamalwa. Well, as we are celebrating 1 year since Kenya-Uganda signed the Moroto Peace Accord, that actually saw previously warring Turkana and West Pokot communities in Kenya and Karamoja in Uganda stop warring. Why was this important for Kenya?
Abi, it is important for Kenya because we have been working on the East African integration, on the East African community, to see how we can bring our people to live together, to coexist peacefully, to do business together, and to move freely across our borders. And once you have free movement of people and goods, you promote trade, you grow the local economies, you grow the national economies. And this is one area that had been left behind in terms of development historically. This was a marginalized area because of insecurity, the clashes between the Karamoja and the Turkana, the Pokot, have been there for years. So we had to change this area to turn it into a productive area economically, to boost cross-border trade instead of cross-border conflict. And to do so first, you must restore peace. You must restore security. And when we're talking about security, it's not just the hardware part of it. We must look at the software. We must look at how we can use development as a tool of integration. We have also looked at the issues that have caused this conflict. The pastoralists, as I said, when there is drought, they will not wait for the animals or their families to die. They will migrate. They will move to where they'll find water and pasture. On the Ugandan side, we have had bigger dams that have been there for years. So say like in 2017 when we had the drought, very big portions of our populations in West Pokot, in Turkana crossed into Uganda. They went into areas like Kabong, like Kodipo, all the way to Kobebe, to Moroto, where we found them. And when our president visited, and we were with President Museveni, we visited the dams in Kobebe, and we saw what Ugandans have done. And we found many Kenyan pastoralists who had crossed and lived into Kobebe. So we say the president challenged us. We were several ministers there. There was the Minister for Water, Chelugui. There was the Minister for Mining, John Munyes, and myself. There was Governor Nanok and Governor Lunyanga Paul. We had also Senator Pogisho said, why can't we as Kenyans build similar dams on our side so that we stop this movement and conflict between communities? And by his directive, I'm very happy tonight, as we mark the milestone that is the first anniversary, that we have 5 ongoing water projects. I just commissioned 2. One, the Nassau Peace Dividend Water Project in West Pokot, and the second one is the Orum Peace Dividend Water Project in Turkana. But we have 3 mega dams that are coming up that the president directed. One is in Kasese, this is in West Pokot. The second one is in Nakwetom, this is in Turkana. And the third one is in Forore, this is in Marsabit County. These are all border counties where we've had clashes between communities living on our borders with those in Ethiopia, particularly with the Merile, with the Nyanktons, with the Toposa. We've had huge losses in terms of life and livestock. This has affected the livelihood of our people, and that is why, as government, we said it's time we came together to change this trend of things so that we promote a cross-border trade. And I'm very happy that all these dams are ongoing, and very, very soon, once they are complete, we will be happy to have our president come to commission them so that we can celebrate more fruits of cross-border peace that we signed in Moroto. So we're happy that we're making progress, Abi, tonight. Asante.
Thank you, CS. And Mr. Sid, when we hear of such initiatives where the governments actually are working together towards achieving a win-win situation for both communities, how can the UN further foster this so that we can see more concerted efforts as we move?
Abhi, I think the CS, again, captured this beautifully. And where I see the role of the UN has been very beautifully articulated by the UN Secretary General. He talks about the prevention agenda, which is precisely what Kenya has as one of its prime movers in its new role in the UN Security Council. And the prevention mandate is really about what we term as the triple nexus, the intersection between peace, humanitarian action, and development. What we've managed to do, and this is not just one entity. It is the UN not just delivering as one as part of the very far-reaching and bold reforms that the UN Secretary General has implemented, but the UN delivering as one across borders. Now, when you can imagine 23 UN agencies, funds and programs on the Kenya side partnering up with 23 UN agencies, funds and programs on the Ugandan side and similar numbers on the Ethiopian side, when that lot comes together in lockstep with the vision of the host government, they work and serve the people, then what you see is scale. And as I said earlier, this is a microcosm of what can be achieved into the future. There are three very essential components to this, and this is what Kenya defines. First of all is political will. Programs of this nature will never succeed unless there is unvarnished political will, absolutely there. The second is the right framing of public policies, and what we are seeing is through the devolution chapter in Kenya, and particularly with this push towards looking at the traditionally marginalized areas, people who have been left out of the development curve, this is going to be very, very significant of making sure that no one feels a sense of inequity or being left out. But the third most important thing is that this becomes the vehicle into which we can start seeing an African integration, just the way that we saw the post-Second World War integration of the European Union, and we saw how the European Union progressed. Don't forget, post-Second World War, European Union had just come out of two different wars. They had gone through the whole global depression that we had seen in the 1930s. What they helped them recover was this integration. What helped them recover was a Marshall Plan. Now we need a Marshall Plan of the same ambition that brings the private sector, the public sector, working with the UN in support of the governments that they serve. This is where that real change will happen. So like I said again, what Kenya, Uganda, and hopefully Tanzania and other regions represent is the growth potential of this region. Let me give you a demographic reality. Between Kenya, Uganda, Ethiopia, Rwanda, Tanzania, and Sudan, the population of just these countries will be about 700 million by 2050. The growth trajectory with a few macroeconomic adjustments would mean double-digit economic growth. Can you imagine what we could turn the sub-Saharan Africa region into, particularly with what we've already come to? So these cross-border programs therefore become even more important. And I really want to take this opportunity to really openly thank C.H. Eugene Wamalwa and the team he works with, who've been very diligent and absolutely focused in making sure that they brought everybody together to deliver on this vision, because this is precisely the vision that the UN Secretary General has in terms of his prevention agenda. Kenya is actually demonstrating and giving an example of what is possible, which was traditionally considered impossible. Over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chatterjee. And clearly it is a priority that we're seeing the level of support that the UN has come with into this peace efforts. And we want to go on a quick commercial break, and I'd like to remind our viewers that you can engage with us on our social media handles at KTN News KE. You can tweet me at Agina Abi, and the hashtag is FrontRow. Well, our sister station, that is KTN Home, has been picking this live debate, and of course after the break we shall be transitioning back to KTN News. So keep it locked here on KTN News.
This is KTN News.